Hi, everyone. Dr. Frankie here. And I am happy to be here with you all on a Thursday, covering another topic that I'm excited about sharing with you all. But before I jump into today's topic, I want to share. I'm really trying to when I do these talks with you, I try to share something that's significant, important to me at the beginning of it, just so that I give you a better sense of me, just my personality and how I choose to live my life. I'm sure you get a good sense of it just through the material that I put out there. But there's lessons and teachings every week that I put out, and there's less of me sharing on a personal side. So I'm trying to be intentional about doing that a little bit more. And this week, I want to share with you all that I've been in a pretty intensive IFS training. It's called Internal Family Systems, and many of you know I'm a clinical psychologist. I've been practicing a pretty long time, over 2 decades, and I'm always trying to grow and learn and absorb new information. And um, this is an actual intervention framework, like healing modality that is just so incredibly powerful. And I worked for a decade, primarily focusing on trauma, acute stress disorder, and PTSD, folks who were victims of sexual assault, repeated assaults, rape, and so on. And really, the tool that I went to using that was really a great healing modality at the time was exposure therapy. And now I have found that IFS is another tool that I can use to help people heal. And even though I'm not doing, specifically trauma work anymore with clients, we all have been, right? We've all experienced varying degrees of trauma. And it's important as a coach, psychologist, matchmaker to have the tools and skills to help people heal those parts of ourselves that still need healing. And life is a journey and a process and an evolution, and one that requires us to go inward throughout our journey. And this is a way that we can do it that really gets to those core parts of us that are still hurting, needing attention and time and care. And I'm thrilled to be doing this program. But wow, it is intensive. It is emotional. We role play, and as we practice the skills, and it definitely has brought up things in me that I haven't even thought about for years. So I want to encourage you to continue to explore yourself, your internal process, your system, and try and find, are there areas within yourself where there's more work to be done, deepening, exploring, and ultimately really healing so that you can show up for yourself and others more authentically. So hopefully in time you feel maybe some shifts and changes in me, as I make myself more accessible to you all. And because of my childhood, I learned how to be very self protective and present as very strong and always composed and all of that stuff. With the intention of going into 2025 and sharing more of the personal side with you all, this is a way in which I can challenge and stretch myself to be more accessible and present for you all. So, with that said, I'm going to start. I'm just going to jump in with my talk today. And also, before I do that, actually, I want to thank those who have recently subscribed, those who continue to support, and share and like and comment on my talks. And please, if you're new to my channel, subscribe. And I would love to hear from you. I try my best to respond to comments, questions, and so on. So, thank you all for being here with me. Today's topic is make your own dating rules for 2025. My gosh, when I say 2025, I can't even believe that we're here. It feels like that's such a big number, but I'm absorbing it now that it's been a few weeks that we've been in the new year. If you're of a certain age, you might remember the rules: a book of time tested secrets for hooking a man with the goal of marriage. It was based heavily around trying to manipulate the behavior of your male dates, getting him to treat you the way you deserve. These aren't the kind of rules I recommend you setting for your dating life in 2025. Much like boundaries, rules work better when they're centered around you, not other people. That said, setting some rules for your own sex and dating life can be transformative. Not because you're holding yourself to a rigid set of punitive standards, but because you're defining a vision of what you want your love life to look like and linking that with behavior that makes it possible. Curating dates. A major part of discernment and decision making in dating is deciding who you're going to entertain dating in the first place. If we're operating from a scarcity mindset, we may feel obligated to give anyone interested in us a shot, even if they don't seem aligned with what we actually want in terms of our green flags or even have some red flags. Making a set of guidelines for yourself about what merits your limited time and attention in terms of a date can help you outline what's most important to you and what you're actually looking for in a date or a partner. These are by no means universal recommendations for everyone, but examples of what you could consider. For instance, if you know you're dating at the bottom, it might be helpful to prioritize dates with people who message you and you first in terms of the dynamic you want for an eventual relationship. That doesn't mean that that's the right move for everyone. That said, you could create rules for yourself about prioritizing dates with people who message you first, for example, ask you out first, explicitly express interest or attraction to you, explicitly define what they're looking for in dating or in a relationship, explicitly share your same political or social values, share the same relationship orientation as you, for example, monogamous, non-monogamous, poly, etc. Share sexual preferences with you, like kink, BDSM. Have demonstrable circle of friends, social support. Communication. Your communication with new dates sets a precedent for your connection almost as much as time spent in person does. After all, so much of our contemporary relationships are mediated over text, phone, and social media. You may also have safety or privacy concerns or just healthy boundaries on your time. Some rules you want to consider around talking, chatting, texting, or communicating, I'm going to share with you right now. Only communicating on a dating app, other app rather than texting. Only communicating on an app that prioritizes privacy like Signal. Only communicating with a number that prioritizes privacy like Google Voice. Only giving out your actual phone number to people you want to see again after having a successful first date. Chatting for a week or two before having an in person date. Minimizing chatting and meeting in person as soon as possible. Having a phone call or FaceTime date first as a COVID safe precaution. Limits on how often you talk with people you're not seeing seriously, like like for example, not texting every day. Date logistics. There's a lot of you that you can't control about your dates, the outcomes, right? Like whether you like each other, but there's a lot you can control, and you may find dating a lot more pleasurable and sustainable if you set some baseline rules for yourself about what dates look like for you. You may also find them safer and less of a waste of time if either of those have been concerns for you in the past. Some rules you might want to try are only meeting in public places for a certain number of dates, only having first dates at a familiar spot you're comfortable at or where the staff knows you, keeping first dates under a specific time limit, like 2 hours, for example, committing to first date activities that you'll enjoy on their own merits, even if you don't hit it off right away, right on the first date, confirming a planned date within 24 hours and canceling it if you don't get confirmation in that time, texting a friend the location and expected time frame of your date, or even your date's name or a photo of their ID, explicitly discussing what you're both looking for in a relationship on a first or second or third date, waiting till 24 hours after the first date to decide if you want a second one. Relationship pace. This is one that comes up often in my practice. If you've historically struggled with relationships moving too fast, it can be enormously helpful to concretely pace yourself by setting timelines or specific milestones for big relationship steps. Waiting to make some relationship commitments can help make sure that they happen because they're the healthiest thing for the relationship and not because you're swept up in a new relationship energy. Some rules you might make for yourself around the pace of your relationship are waiting to have sex after a certain number of dates or amount of time, waiting to meet each other's friends after a certain number of dates or amount of time, waiting to have a sleepover until a certain number of weeks, waiting to have a sleepover until you feel comfortable being serious, exclusive, having reached a specific relationship milestone, waiting to say I love you until a certain number of months, waiting to say I love you until you feel comfortable being serious, exclusive, having reached a specific relationship milestone, waiting to be monogamous, exclusive until a certain number of months, waiting to be monogamous, exclusive until you feel comfortable being serious, setting time limits to consider moving in together, marriage, joining your financials, and so on. Safer sex. If you do nothing else in this article that I'm sharing or this talk, because I also, right, I post this online and also put it in audio for you all, like I'm doing right now. If you do nothing else, it's difficult to overstate how much everyone can benefit from having some personal rules for themselves around safer sex. Yes, even if lesbians and queer women, whether it's guidelines for yourself as someone pursuing casual sex or rules within your relationship, I'm going to share some examples of rules you might want to institute around safer sex. Only doing some sex acts after everyone involved has been tested for STIs. Only doing any sex act if everyone involved has been tested for STIs. Agreeing to test regularly while seeing each other. Only doing some sex acts with barrier methods. Agreeing to only use sex toys that can't be sanitized with each other. Agreeing to use barrier methods with other partners. Asking him about and disclosing any health conditions that might impact sex, sexual pleasure, or sexual health. I know this is a lot of information for y'all to take in. It feels like a lot to me, and but so important when going into continuing, your dating journey into 2025 and thinking about how you can take care of yourself and actually streamline the process and be successful. I know a lot of people feel like it's been really hard for them to find people that are compatible and to also manage the pace and things like that, where it can be really exciting, but also the excitement can cause us to sort of fly off the rails. So, with all of these thoughts in mind, I hope that you take something away from my talk today. And again, like I mentioned in the article, I post all of my blogs, my video blogs, and my written blogs, which are consistent every week. Sometimes they're off by a week or two online, but you can see basically 16 years of articles that I have posted at littlegaybook.com and littleblackbookmatchmaking.com or drfrankie.com. I look forward to seeing you all next week. I hope you have a beautiful week. Kisses, hugs, and again, thank you all for being here with me.